Wow, 1 out of 3 is done. International break basically over. Joe Sansom, it's Jack and Joe show, and it's Fulham v West Ham time. How are you?
I'm good. Thank God the international break's over, because we were just speaking before, and as much as the Barclays men trend has been a bit entertaining, it is the epitome of having nothing to talk about football-wise for 2 weeks. England's been reasonably fun. I've watched both games, both been relatively comfortable, but look, nothing compares to club action, as I've been banging the drum for ages. So thank goodness football is back, and we're at home against West Ham, a fixture that we really, really enjoyed last season, Jack.
Oh, and some 5-0. I was just speaking to a West Ham fan actually just now, and yeah, there was a sickness bug in the camp of West Ham team. Was it real? Was it not?
No.
We should investigate. Pretty straightforward Jack and Joe show today, really. Let's talk West Ham v Fulham. I feel like I have, because I'm doing daily Fulham content on the Patreon. I've spoke about this fixture so much this week that it feels like, Joe, please take the floor with your thoughts ahead of this game. What would you do? How would you change it? What would you change? How do you want to line up? And we'll do a score prediction at the end.
Yeah. So what am I expecting from West Ham? They've had a really mixed bag of results so far. You know, they obviously started the season with a pretty meek performance against Aston Villa, and I really think that 2-1 flattered them, even though they lost that game. I thought they were really, really underwhelming. They then followed that up with a pretty decent 2-0 win at Palace, and then obviously lost to Man City. But in terms of the performance against City, I don't think it was terrible, and I don't think you can read too much into a defeat. I don't think 3-1 against City, as weird as it sounds, is an awful result. It's obviously not a good result, but they had chances to pull another goal back. It could have been 3-2 right at the end. Good save from Ederson onto the post. So, you know, mixed bag of results. They obviously had a big summer of spending. Back four in particular, you know, 3 out of 4 of the back four could be new signings, you know, when you factor in Kilman, Todibo and Wan-Bissaka right back. Then just in front of them, you've got Guido Rodriguez, who's also a new signing. I thought it looked like he was running through treacle against Aston Villa. So I really do hope he starts and has not improved his fitness over the international break, because honestly, I reckon I could catch him. And I've got a dodgy calf at the moment. It was just, you know, they were all over the place in that game, but it also was the first game they were up against an impressive Aston Villa side who had an equally or even more impressive midfield too of Tielemans and especially Onana. So what am I expecting? I really don't know from West Ham, and I'm a bit nervous about the unknown here. I felt like we knew what we were getting from Ipswich, because we knew they were going to be right up for it. We knew that it was their first big chance of points in comparison with their first 2 games.
Yeah.
Obviously knew what we were facing with Leicester, because we'd seen them on the Monday night. We'd watched them against Tottenham, and we basically knew what their starting 11 was going to be, minus 1 or 2 changes potentially. And United, you know, United's United. Always the same, always absolutely horrible, even if we win. And we rarely win. For this one, I think that there could be big changes for West Ham. You know, they've got players like Somerville who are on the bench that could start. You've seen that there's an injury to Fulkrug in the news, which would mean that Antonio would probably start up front, but they could also start Bowen up top. You know, he often plays there in the number 9. So a really weird one. But if we focus on ourselves, Jack, and we think about what didn't work against Ipswich, we've all sort of unanimously said we did not progress the ball well enough at all. That starts at the back, but the main job is midfield. So those are the 2 areas where I think we'll see changes. I can't see the front 3 changing. Or should I say, there is only one element of the front 3 I can see changing, and that is the left-hand side. And that links to the midfield. So let's start back to front. So back to front. Leno is obviously going to start in goal, minus something happening in training. Fingers crossed nothing's going on there. Right back, I think Tete's had a great start to the season, and I would not drop him. I would stick with Tete. And Robinson, obvious on the other side as well, at left back. Centre backs, I think that Anderson's coming in. And I think that Anderson has to come in because we need someone who is able to progress the ball up the pitch. He offers an option in behind as well. We saw that with Stansfield's goal against Birmingham. he's someone with a little bit more quality than, unfortunately, Issa Diop on the ball. So even though I think it is quite harsh on Diop, who I think has performed better than Bassi in all 3 games so far, he's a right-sided player. We've got a right-sided replacement ready to go. So I think that it will be Bassi on the left, Anderson on the right. I then think that as you go into midfield, this is where more of the problems were happening against Ipswich. It felt like, well, not just Ipswich, but all 3 games, it felt like there were players stepping on each other's toes. You had players that were going forward, not doing enough defensively, or vice versa. But Lukic has been fantastic, and Lukic should start. I think...
Here we go.
Yeah.
Here we go.
The answer is he's getting dropped. He is getting dropped. But who is getting dropped? Because I've got 2 options here. And for both of them, I think that it will be interesting. So I think that Sander Berge should start this game. I think he should start next to Lukic. I think that Lukic should be the one that is slightly more advanced, even though he's played in the last 2 games, purely because Berge has been brought in as the replacement for Polinia, supposedly. But in all honesty, flip a coin. I'm not sure who plays better where because I haven't seen them play together yet.
Yeah.
I think that on merit, Pereira could get dropped. I also think on merit, Iwobi could get dropped. But I think Iwobi has been marginally better than Pereira. Therefore, I would drop Pereira. But I think that whoever out of them starts should start in midfield, not on the left. I think Smith Rowe should be on the left wing. I think that Smith Rowe and all the players were sort of treading on each other's toes. I want to see him carrying the ball off the left like we saw in that goal against Leicester, which won our goal of the month. It was a great team move and a really good finish. So that's what I want to see. So to summarise, it would be Leno in goal. It would be the same back 4 other than Diop out and Anderson in, which is a little bit harsh. It would be Sander Berge in place of Andreas Pereira. And it would be Iwobi in the 10, Smith Rowe on the left. So there's only 2 changes to the team. But
and then Adama Muniz.
Adama Muniz, as you were. Worth noting, before you come on to your points, Jack, that Harry Wilson had a great game for Wales midweek. A wonderful, wonderful finish. We're going to speak about only football, I think, for the sake of this, because, we've seen the story. I don't think he'll start, but it was good that he at least got some form back on the pitch. He got credited with the assist for the first goal, which is quite funny because the ball literally just hit him. Fantastic value. I then think that Muniz, he needs a couple more games before you start thinking, do we give him as a start? I don't want to get to that point yet. So I think that's my team. I would not be gutted if Iwobi got dropped and Pereira started, if I'm being honest with you.
Yeah.
I just haven't been overly impressed with him so far this season, and it's a time to try new things. We've got 2 games at home. I would be probably surprised if we have the same lineup in both, so we're trying to learn our team. And in between, we've obviously got the game at Preston. I haven't mentioned Reece Nelson because I think that's where he'll probably get his first start.
Absolutely. I agree with everything you've basically just said. There's no need to even add to it, apart from the fact that what will West Ham identify from Fulham's performance against Ipswich? Press Fulham high up the pitch, and you've got the energy of either Antonio or Bowen. And now I've just spoke to a West Ham fan for half an hour and completely forgot that Somerville exists. So now I'm thinking Bowen's going to start down the middle and Somerville's going to be on one side and Kudus is going to be on the other side, and they got Paqueta in the 10. And they could interchange, perhaps.
It's a good team. Let's face it, it's a good team.
I don't want to go. I don't want to go watch the game. I just want to hide under a bed and find out what happened after the game.
Just bear in mind that other than Somerville, all of those players started the game last season.
That's true. Going back to my original point, if we're in a state of panic or we're in a state of West Ham are making us feel very uncomfortable here, and predominantly it was Bassi and Robinson that were getting pressed, who's a player who can come into the team and get us out of pressure by just pinging a ball over the top? Joachim Anderson. And that is why he has to come in. Well, that's one of very few, very goodness. Lots of reasons why he should come in.
That's the main one, isn't it? Yeah.
It's one of the main ones.
Defensively, Diop's been fine. But defensively, even though I know you just mentioned Bassi and Robinson, which is true, part of the reason that it's all coming down left is they don't have anyone to pass to on the right, because you're just going to get stuck there as well. So, I think that he has to come in. I agree.
Rock in a hard place. Obviously, there's a goal that sticks rent-free in my head from last season. It's a Diop against Brentford where he gives the ball away and Brentford score. And that's obviously, it happens every once in a while. That's fine. And it could happen to Bassey. It could happen to Tim Ream when he was at the club. And, it's fine. Well, it's not fine, but it happens. But I can just imagine a scenario where, it's 8 minutes into the game and West Ham have started well by pressing us up high, and the ball just falls to Anderson. He's got a bit of space, bit of time. And who have you got running? You got Smith Rowe running down the left. You got Adama running down the right, or Iwobi down the left. Pings it out, and we're not in as such, but we get out of danger, and maybe we can mount an attack. And I'd like to think that Anderson's crossfield balls will be a tool to use when we're under the cosh a little bit.
Yeah.
Albeit we can play through the thirds and play out from the back and play it to the wide areas and mount an attack that way as well. So that's going to be very interesting. Like you say, Fulkirk injured. It's fairly good news for Fulham. It means that they'll have to go with either Antonio or Bowen up front. West Ham, I was just speaking to the West Ham fan, they're playing they're not really sure what's going on with their midfield. They're playing a flat three, or they play two and then one in Paqueta just behind the striker. So almost like a 4-2-3-1, almost like a 4-3-3, quite similar to the way Fulham line up at times.
Yeah.
And I just said to this, I might just repeat it, might as well. The game's going to be won and lost, not in midfield, but by the quality of the attacking players. There's going to be a lot of star players on show in this game in both teams' attacking areas, and it's going to be about who can take those chances. Bowen, brilliant in front of goal. Antonio can stretch the defence. Paqueta can get a goal. Kudos can get a goal. Somerville, cuts in, scores a lot for Leeds last season. And then on the other side, you've got Adama, very, very, very fast and creative. You've got Iwobi, who can score. Smith Rowe, who we've seen score. Pereira can score if he wants to. Muniz, of course, as well. So lots and lots and lots of... I just think this is going to be a great game. I think this is going to be such a good game for the neutral that sort of sad it's not on the telly. It maybe should be on the telly, this one, but that's just my opinion. Let's talk Carlos Vinicius. Literally in the last hour, I've seen that he has now got a squad number 12, not number 30, number 12. It seems as if this, because he didn't really have he's not had a pre-season, really. He's been training alone with Kevin and Babu because they were surplus to requirements.
Yeah.
And now, because we've sold Stansfield and only have two natural striker options, he's got to come back. And obviously, this was not ideal for Marco because if he was part of the plans, he would have got a squad number. What do you make of this? And do you think we'll see Vinicius play any part in the Preston game?
Yeah. I mean, the only time I can see him playing is in the cups.
Yeah,
maybe being on the bench. You would assume that if there's no injuries or anything like that Jimenez will start in the cup games. Maybe even if we've got higher level opposition, potentially Muniz continues up front. I can see Vinicius being on the bench. It's just a really weird situation now where, they probably had to rally behind him and go, this isn't ideal for anyone. I know he probably wanted to leave at this point. Moves fallen through because Stansfield went. Nothing that can be done because we can't sign a replacement if he goes now. So I suppose we just have to wait until January. And I'm pretty confident he'll go in January. But until then, assuming that we get through in the Cup, for example, or even, the FA Cup third round will be at the start of January, he should have a couple of games where he might be involved in some capacity. But with no disrespect to him, you would hope that there never needs to be a time where he needs to start a game before then, because we've got other options that are hopefully doing well by that point. He needed a squad number. He needed to get back into the team because, it's an elephant in the room. He's still around, clearly. He'll be integrated with first team training now. It's just get behind him. He's given us some good moments. We are all aware that he will be leaving the club and it's the right decision for him and for us to part ways. But until then, he's a Fulham player. And if he does play, I'll get behind him.
Could you just imagine a scenario where he comes off the bench in a Premier League game because it forces our hand and he has to come off and he scores like a brace and wins us a game and then just goes on this like a Muniz, goes on this amazing run of form and he becomes our main striker for the season? It would be one of the funniest U-turns in Premier League history in terms of
Yeah.
just. I mean, I'd love it to happen because we need goals, we need points, and we need to stay up. And I think we'll stay up, but we need to progress. And it would just be very helpful if we had another goal scorer.
I mean, look, Jack, I can't see it happening, but let's think of this exact time last year.
Exactly.
Jimenez up front, Vinicius was the backup, and Muniz was the forgotten man that we were both saying should be sold because it's not working out, or at least loaned out. So I know exactly what you're saying. It's not out of the question.
I think that is the question that I will put to Marco on Friday. Like Vinicius, obviously, was going to leave and now he can't. What's his role in the team? Blah blah blah. And that'll be very interesting to find out. That'll be very interesting to find out. There's not an awful lot we need to talk about anymore. We've covered Vinicius, we've covered West Ham. All there is to say is, Joe, do you have a score prediction?
I do. And it's really, really boring, but I do think it's going to be a really good game. I think it'll be better than this, but I just think that I can't see either team letting in more than one. I think it's going to be a 1-1 draw. I think it'll be an exciting end-to-end game. I think there is a lot of quality on show, as you say. I just can't work West Ham out, so I can't predict us to beat them because I don't know which side's going to turn up. I do think that I saw enough from us in our opening three to have another good season at home. We beat a lot of decent sides at home last year and we're very solid. Just want to keep an unbeaten run at home going. We don't play any of the typical big six until Arsenal in December. It would be great to get an unbeaten run going beyond then because we often have trouble with Newcastle. That's another one to hopefully tick off early doors next week. Yeah, fingers crossed. But I think 1-1. What about you?
Yeah, literally 1-1 has been my prediction since since I started looking ahead to this game. Really, I just want to ask you a question, two questions in one. What happens if we lose? And with the fixtures coming up, Newcastle at home, not easy. Nottingham Forest away, not easy. We lost there last season with 3-0 down at half-time. Man City away, almost impossible.
Yeah.
Are you getting Steve off a worry?
No. It's just no. Like if we lose to West Ham, we've lost to West Ham. I will be gutted because I don't want to be losing to West Ham in any situation. But especially, let's face it, we haven't had the most electric start to the season. We've been fine. We all wanted probably minimum 4, but we were hoping for at least 6 points. We even said maybe 7 from the opening 3. So we're a little bit behind where we wanted to be. It would put a bit more pressure on the next 2 in terms of Newcastle at home and Forest away. But I wouldn't be worried at that stage. If we were to go and then lose again to Newcastle, big time. But we haven't at that point. So it's if the performance is bad and we lose, it's very different. If we play well, for example, Palace the other week, it was an even game against West Ham. They lost 2-0. Quality in front of the goal swung it. I think we've got enough about us anyway. But in answer to your question, long-winded way of saying, I'm not worried, but it depends what happens after. But in isolation, no.
Yeah, it's obviously a tricky period. I don't like this run of fixture at all. And then obviously you come back from the next international break and we've got Aston Villa at home.
Yeah.
And then Everton away, and they'll be right up for it, but they might still be on 0 points. So you just never, or even minus. Hey, who knows? That's that for today then. Also, we found out during the international break that Leicester will not be getting a points deduction. That is
very interesting.
I hope it won't affect us, but let's call it a day there. Joe, thank you so much for being here and enjoy your holiday in Greece.
Thank you very much. So yeah, I won't be on the Jack and Joe show next week. It's most likely to be Jack Squared, I believe. So we'll see what happens with that one.
Yeah, that's a new guest. His surname is Squared.
Everyone enjoy the West Ham game. I'll be back for the Newcastle game to review it. And I'll have been there, which is fantastic for reviewing a game. So see you all there.
Oh, it's that period. I don't know what's going to happen with Jack and Joe actually next week because we're playing PNE, aren't we? I would think because obviously Joe's away and Jack will be busy with his own work as well. I would imagine we will do a Jack and Joe maybe late Wednesday evening to go up Wednesday night, if not Thursday morning.
Yeah.
And reacting to both games. West Ham might be like a not a story anymore, but PNE hopefully will be. And we'll have the draw if we're into the hat. And please not Liverpool away unless they lose to West Ham. Who are our next opponents? Lovely way to segue and round off the video. Joe, I almost called you Jack there. Joe, Thanks so much for
That's
being here,
next
and
week.
we'll speak in a couple of weeks' time.
See you later, Jack. Thanks everyone for watching.
Yeah, thanks so much for watching, guys. Continue liking and subscribing to the Fulhamish YouTube channel. We are growing, and we are enjoying ourselves doing the Jack and Joe show. Thank you so much for watching, and come on, Fulham!